Morning. So it's December 10th, 2020. Welcome to Trans Adventures episode 2. So I thought I would start more towards the beginning of my transition and talk about the day I came out. It wasn't the first time I had come out, but it was the first time that I came out publicly. So like I had told friends before, hey, I think I might be trans, but like I never actually embraced it and did anything about it. It was more, I just continued to present as male. So it was in April, so we'd been on lockdown for like almost 2 months, I think, and I was pretty stressed out, just because lockdown. Like, I mean, I'm an introverted indoor body, but all of a sudden so was my family, so that was really rough. And I used to go every couple weeks out to Berkeley in California, for people not in the Americas. Basically, it's like much more progressive area. That's where most things happen in Berkeley. And so I used to go out to Berkeley and be around the other non-heteros and visit my friends who, had non-binary friends, non-hetero friends, and things like that. And I couldn't, and I live out here in farm country, and my family is, well, my parents are a little homophobic and a little transphobic. My dad tries to say he's accepting, but not so much when it's his own kid. And my mother is, let's not talk about my mom. Okay, so I was feeling really down, and like it was affecting me even at work. I have always kind of worn my emotions. I have trouble hiding them from other people, and anyone who knows me can pick it up in my body language. So one of my managers, our assistant manager, Kim, is like, hey, are you okay? Like, you seem really down. And I was just like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. Just shrugged it off. And then the night manager got there, who was our store manager, Katie, and she was like, hey, you do seem really down. Like, Kim told me you've been down all day. Let's go talk. And I was just like, fuck, I'm in trouble. Like, I'm gonna get talked at for being a downer on morale or something. So she pulls me into the pit. It's like our garbage area. It doesn't smell as bad as people think it does, honestly. So it's kind of like a hangout for smokers. Anyway, so we're out there, and she's like, what's wrong? So I asked her, I was like, well, how do you feel about the LGBTQ community? And because, I mean, I knew her pretty well, but that's work people. Like, you don't know how they are outside of work. And at that point, I didn't know how she was towards those sorts of things. I didn't really know, like, how she felt about most stuff or political views, things like that. So I was like, how do you feel about the scene? And she was like, oh, well, my brother's gay, and he lives on the East Coast now because of my parents, so like I've always kind of resented them for that. And I'm super supportive, like I love my brother, and yada yada yada. So I was like, okay, cool, well, I'm not straight. Like even then I was struggling to just say it, right? And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I've dated transgender people, and I've been with guys romantically. Well, not exactly romantically, but intimately, let's say that. And yeah, so, and I started telling her all these things, like, I haven't seen any of my friends, I'm stuck at home, like, it's just this rigid atmosphere where I have to pretend to be something I'm not. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I feel like I'm putting on a farce. Like, I have to fake being what they expect of me, And she's like, in what way? And I was like, well, I mean, like, I can't even wear a hat without them giving me shit about it. And she's like, what? And I was like, like, I started wearing hats because my hair was getting longer. Just because no haircut place was open, and at that time I was still presenting male, so I kept my hair pretty short. It's still pretty short. It's getting there. And it was like a stone in my chest. Like I couldn't say it. I just couldn't say it out loud. Like I couldn't admit it. Because if I said it out loud, then it would be real. And as much as I wanted it to be real, I was so scared. Like I was horrified. I was absolutely horrified what would happen if I came out, you know, because when I was much younger, I came out to my store as non-hetero, and most people freaked. Like it was bad. Like I had to transfer stores. I moved around a lot after that. You know, I moved out of my parents' house, and then I eventually had to move back home just because money. But yeah, I transferred stores like 3 different times. Just it was pretty bad. So like so I had quit my job at one point and got rehired maybe a year after that because the job I took sucked. And I bounced around to a couple stores. So like the store I was at now is the one I'm still at, right? And I'd been there for about 2 years, and I was like, you know, I don't really want to ruin what I got here if people have a bad reaction. Completely disregarding the fact that the world has changed. People are much more progressive and accepting. So anyway, back to the story. So I'm talking to Katie, and I was like, you know, I can't be myself. I can't. And she's like, just say it. Like, just say it, Devin. Like, you can say it, is what she said. She said, you can say it. And I was like, I'm trans. And immediately she was just like, okay, it's okay. And to me, that was huge. That was absolutely huge. That was the first time I'd ever told somebody, and they would just immediately accepted it and understood. Like, not really understood the complications of it, but understood that that is how I felt and that it was okay. And that had never happened to me before. People were always like 1,000 questions, or one of my best friends in the world, and if she's watching this, I totally forgive you, it's fine. She's like, why would you want to do that? And I was just like, what? Like, it's not a want. It's like, yes, it's something I want, it's something I feel I deserve, but it's not a want, it's a need. Like, I am that way. I need to present myself in that way because it's driving me crazy not doing it. So I told my boss I was trans, and she told me it was okay, and it was just the best feeling ever. Like, I felt elated, like an entire weight was off my shoulders. And I'd bounced back and forth a few times between starting hormones for like a week and then stopping over a few years. So like that night I called my endocrinologist, and well, I sent him an email because it was nighttime, and I was like, hey, I'm ready to start, like for real, and I want to talk about it before, you know, I start hormones again. And he was like, okay, cool. So like a week later, my endocrinologist called me, and we talked for a while. And, you know, he was like, you know, you've bounced back and forth on this a few times, like, what's different now? And I was like, well, I realized that I just need to do this for me. Like, that's it. Nothing else is gonna happen. Like, it's gotta be for me. And I have to not care what people think. And he was like, that is the best answer I've ever heard. It's just like, okay, great. So like a week later, I started my hormones, and that was April 25th. So it's December now. I'm coming up on 8 months. And I actually feel really great. Like that first couple months was so rough. I was nauseated all the time, wicked bad stomach cramps. I was not a joy to be around because I was so irritated. And my boss called it raging bitch Devin. And I have since mellowed out and am more or less fun to be around. But yeah, it was really hard, and I couldn't have done it without Katie, and I couldn't have done it without my friends. And like, I came out to a few of them one-on-one, which was really hard to do without crying. Even now I'm feeling a little emotional. But the one that really stuck out to me was my friend Kate, not my boss, different friend Kate, who, immediately just like, she was like, can I give you a hug? And I was like, yes, you know. And she gave me a hug, and she was like, you'll always be my sister. That's what she said. She said, you'll always be my sister. And I was just like, Kate. Like, it felt so great to get that from someone just like so immediately. And I'd come out to like maybe a dozen people before, and nobody had ever had that kind of reaction, so it felt pretty good. And like, we've been pretty tight ever since, even though we don't work together a whole lot because we have opposite schedules. But yeah, it's been a ride. It's been pretty impressive just how accepting everyone has been. So I think it was maybe 2 months in, around June, and I asked my boss, and I was like, hey, can I just post a letter in the back room? Because like, this one-on-one stuff is taking way too long. And she was like, yes, absolutely, I love letters, and I think it'd be really healthy for you. And I was just like, okay, cool. So I posted it up there and told my story, and I was, at the end, I was like, you know, just don't call me sir. And you know, my pronouns are she, her. And it was an overwhelmingly positive. Like, no one has given me shit about it except for a few new hires, because the letter is not posted anymore. And I feel like at this point it should be obvious, because like, we have very gendered uniforms at work, and I'm now wearing the women's uniform, which is basically just a different hat. And yeah, so like, I'm the only, let me word this properly. If I'm wearing the girl's hat, that should say that I am a girl, right? So, you know, a couple guys, mostly it's guys, like, give me shit about it. Like, not necessarily about being transgender, but they're playing 20 questions with what can I call you? You know, so it's like first day, first time, and they're like, oh, okay, right on, sir. And I'm just like, I'm not a sir. Do not call me sir. And they're like, well, what do I call you? And it's like, I'm not a sir. Like, I'm not a guy. Like, I'm not a boy. I am female. I'm a girl. And they're just like, okay. You know, it's just like, what's the big deal? Like, I don't think it should be that hard, honestly, especially for younger kids, because it's like, you telling me you've never ran into a trans person at school. Like, we're everywhere now, you know? We're like the wind. We just, like a cancerous cyst on society. No, we're not that negative. But we exist, and it's very aware of who we are. It's like, I don't understand why you're giving me shit about my pronouns right now. Like, I don't sit there and call you girl, you know? It's pretty obvious that you don't do that to people. Like, they correct you once or twice, that should be the end of it, right? Anyway, I'm rambling. So that is my coming out story, and it has been a miraculous change for my health since then. And I think tomorrow we're gonna talk about how I came out to my parents. Yeah, it was pretty rocky. It still is. So yeah, other than that, I hope everyone has a great day, and stay safe out there, and wear your mask, and subscribe, because I'm gonna be posting videos pretty often. So have a good one.